Hi guys, it's Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing and I'm here with my weekly wrap up. So I got a few books read this week. Most of them were really good, so I can't wait to tell you about them. And I will quickly talk about the book I was talking about last week in my weekly wrap up. I had not quite finished it. That was Ninefox, Gambit by Yoon Lee. I explained a little bit about what this book is about in my last wrap up, so hopefully you do kind of get what I'm talking about. This is a sci-fi and it is about this young woman who basically gets tethered to this ghost of this past general from where she is from, and he's basically a madman and he murdered a lot of people. He's like a mass murderer, but she ends up being tethered to his ghost, so she's the only person who can like see him and talk to him, and what he's supposed to do is he's supposed to help her take over this fortress that has been overtaken by the enemy, and she has to try and take this fortress back with the help of this mass murderer on the command of her government, I guess. And the story kind of goes from there. But the thing is that this is the kind of story where it's quite complicated, and it's one of those stories where I was reading it and I knew what was going on, but I didn't really know what was going on. So like I understood kind of the general aspect of things, but I kind of lost a deeper level of understanding with it, and it's one of those ones I think I will have to reread to really get the full story and to really enjoy it the way it's supposed to be enjoyed, I guess. So I did give this a 2.5 out of 5 stars just because I felt like I just didn't really connect with the story at all, but I think it is one that I will reread eventually. Like how it kind of all ended. There was some really interesting things going on at the end, and things kind of seemed to speed up a little bit, and I enjoyed some of the scenes there. Were quite interesting and quite fast paced and exciting and action packed, but the rest of it was all a lot of battle strategies and discussions and a lot of things that were just very confusing. So it was a 2.5 out of 5 stars overall, but it is one that maybe eventually I will give a higher star rating if I reread it. I don't know. After that I was like, okay, I need something a little bit easier on my brain, so I decided to pick up the Flatshare by Beth, which I'd gotten out from my library. This is a contemporary, and if you haven't heard about this already, I don't know where you've been, because this is like so popular in the book world at the moment. It has been like, even before it came out everyone was hearing about it, and now that it is out, lots of people are raving about it, so I was really excited to pick this up. This is kind of what it says on the tin. It is about this Flatshare. It's about this woman called Tiffy who has to move out of her ex-boyfriend's apartment kind of quickly, and she ends up agreeing to Flatshare with this man called Leon, and Leon is a palliative nurse and he works the night shift in a hospice. So he's looking for someone who will be basically someone who will sleep in the flat. So basically Tiffy has the flat from between I think 6 p.m. till 8 a.m. and then Leon has it from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So they never really see each other, but they do actually sleep in the same bed, use everything the same, but they never actually run into each other because their paths just don't cross, just the way they work as well. But they start kind of communicating through notes, and we see kind of this really nice friendship build up between them, and they start kind of helping each other out in their lives, and it's just this really cute system of this friendship developing. This is one that I really expected to love a lot, and I did enjoy it, but I didn't love it. Like, I didn't fall in love with it. It took me a while. The way Leon, for some reason I think as well, Leon's chapters, the way they are written at first, like we kind of get really quickly know that Leon is someone who is a little bit like, he doesn't communicate as well with people. He's very shy. He's just a quiet person. So when his POVs, his chapters were a little bit abrupt at sometimes, and shorter sentences I found, where Tiffany's were a little bit more full of life because she was a very colourful big character. And Leon's were a little bit more muted, and I found it hard to connect to Leon for a while, just because I think the way his chapters are written, the way they were so kind of short and abrupt, and I kind of found it harder to get to know his personality the way it was so much easier to figure out Tiffy's. And I will say I found there was a bit of a lag in the middle of this book as well. Nothing really happened, things slowed down. We are getting like a couple of different interesting subplots within the bigger plot of Tiffy and Leon sharing this apartment. We have Tiffy is dealing with this abusive ex-boyfriend. He was emotionally abusive towards her and manipulative, and she's still dealing with that and really understanding that, and we see her talk to her friends about it and eventually go to therapy and counselling to figure out the effects that relationship had on her, and that is really good to see, and it was so good to see her going to counselling. I feel like I wish she maybe there was even more emphasis on the counselling there, because I feel like that would have been really helpful. And then with Leon, we are seeing things around the kind of the unfair justice system, because he has a family member who was incarcerated for something that they didn't do, and Leon was trying to figure that out and trying to help, and we are seeing just the unfair system there. So that was kind of an interesting subplot as well. But as I said, it kind of just lagged in the middle for me. There was just no spark. There was just none of that spark that really drew me in. Like, I was missing it. And the same with Tiffy and Leon. Like, obviously this is a contemporary romance. There is going to be a romance. There is going to be a relationship that's forming up there. And I felt like there was just no real sparks for me. There was no, like, I didn't feel really giddy in the moment that it happened where I should have felt giddy. I didn't feel like really kind of eager for things to come. Like, I wasn't like screaming at the page for them to kiss. I was just a bit like whatever about them. And I kind of felt like that throughout the rest of the book as well, between Tiffy and Leon. I was like, they're really nice, but I just didn't feel any strong emotions towards them. So I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars overall. I think it is a really, really good novel. But it's just one that was just, it was just lacking the spark for me, and it just didn't connect with me in the way I wanted it to connect with me. So yeah, but I will definitely read more of Beth O'Leary, because I think she can definitely write a really nice story and really nice characters. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5 stars. After that, I listened to a very short audiobook, and it was My Name is Lucy Barton by Elizabeth Strout. This is one that I hadn't really heard of before, but I think is actually quite a well-loved book. And it was only like 5 hours in audio, so I actually was able to read it like one day from like my walk in and my walk back from work, which was really, really nice. This is about a woman called Lucy who, it's set in around the 80s, and she is in hospital for a period of about 5 to 6 weeks after complications from surgery she got for her appendix. And we find out one day she kind of wakes up and she finds her mother has flown across the country to sit at her bedside with her in this New York hospital. And we find out very quickly that it's been a very long time since she saw her mother. She hasn't really seen her mother since she got married. Her mother has never met like her grandchildren, and we kind of start hearing about Lucy's kind of how she grew up, her relationship with her mother, her relationship with her father, why that kind of broke apart. We're getting bits from the past of Lucy, but then we're also getting bits from the future after the hospital and years after that happened, because the whole story is kind of being told by Lucy in the future, but it's mainly focusing on this period of time when her mum came and visited her in the hospital. It's a very quiet novel. It's just about kind of Lucy just looking back at her life and talking about the people in her life, the moments in her life that kind of made a difference. And I really liked it. I thought it was really interesting. It was a really nice listen as well. And there's nothing like extraordinary about this book, but I think that's what made it really nice. It's just one of those things where there's an extraordinariness in the ordinary, maybe. There was just something really kind of lovely and relaxing and nice about it, just to hear about this fictional woman's life and her relationship with her mother and father, and how things could have gone different, and kind of her regrets about some things she did in her life. And I quite enjoyed it. It's one of the things I don't have a whole lot to say about it, except that I quite enjoyed it, and I do recommend it, particularly as an audiobook, because I really enjoyed it on audiobook. So I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. And the last full book I finished this week was The Burning by Laura Bates. This is a contemporary YA. This book, it focuses on a young girl called Anna. She is 16, I think, and she has just moved to this kind of quiet Scottish town with her mum, and we find out that there's this big reason why they moved. Her father died recently, but there was something that happened to Anna in school that she is trying to forget, and whatever this reason was is big enough that her mum decided that they would move the two of them completely across the country and move to Scotland and basically start a new life. She has a new name, everything. And Anna's kind of trying to deal with kind of the memories of what happened to her in her past school, and she starts kind of, settling into her new school, making a couple of new friends, and then she is set a history project to kind of look into someone who, like a famous person in the history of her village or something like that. And she ends up discovering that there's a woman who might have possibly have lived in the house that her and her mum are living in now, who was accused and killed for witchcraft. And she ends up kind of starting to look into this woman, and she starts seeing these real parallels between how women in the past who were normally accused of witchcraft and the way particularly teenage girls are treated by men in today's society, about how, how they dress, how they look, how they make men feel, things like slut shaming and sexual assault. And there's a lot of different issues in this book. Like, this book probably has a trigger warning for everything, and it was a really interesting look, and particularly because there's just a lot of things going on, particularly in Irish news, about how men, in particular teenage boys, are treating women. And there was a murder case this week that kind of was concluded with a charge, and it was about these two teenage boys. They were 13 years old and they killed a 14-year-old girl. And I've been reading a lot obviously about that because it is in the news in Ireland, and there's just so much stuff in this about how the boys talked about the girl, and how they seem to see her and treat her, and how the boys in this book treated the teenage girls kind of as if they were just there for their amusement. And it was kind of weird to be reading this book around the same time as obviously this murder case was in the news here, and hearing all about that. But I think it actually, in a weird way, it made the reading experience more enjoyable for me, because I got so much out of this book because of that, and it made me think a lot about it, and so that was really good. I do feel like the magical element of this, in terms of Anna kind of seeing the life of the woman she is, Maggie, the woman she is into for school, I feel like that kind of got lost in amidst all the other stuff. And the thing is that Maggie's story was almost interesting enough that it could have been a whole other novel, I think, and I feel like the whole story of Maggie, it wasn't given enough justice with the short little snippets we got in the book, and I would have actually enjoyed just a whole historical novel just about Maggie and her life and what happened to her, because that was quite interesting. So yeah, I think that got a little bit lost, and the story could have almost have done without the little magical aspect. It could have just been Anna just looking into the whole thing. So yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars overall. Quite enjoyed it. As I said, it was just weird the way it did kind of correlate with what was going on in real life at the moment. So yeah, and the last book that I am almost finished, I literally have this much left, is The Dark Days Deceit by Alison Goodman, with this third and final book in the Dark Days Club trilogy. And this book is about Lady Helen, who discovers that she is something called a reclaimer, which means that she is able to see kind of the dark energies of these dark creatures that can inhabit human bodies, and she is the type of person who can see these creatures and fight these creatures, and she has to kind of decide if she wants to kind of enter this world and become a true reclaimer. But the thing is, there's never really been a female reclaimer before. They're really, really rare, and she's one of the rarest of it all, because she has inherited those powers from her parents, and that's really rare as well. So yeah, she kind of has to, while at the same time being a lady of society, she also has to learn how to like fight, and learn how to like walk and talk like a man, and dress up as a man, and you know go undercover and stuff like that, and be very unladylike at times, which is quite hard for her to do, and quite hard for her to be in society and be learning all these different things and trying to fight these creatures without getting all the attention on herself as well, and not kind of disgracing her name and disgracing her family, and still trying to find a good marriage match and all that kind of stuff. So it's quite interesting. It's a lot of fun. It's very rich in detail, which I love. This one I am enjoying just as much as I enjoyed the other two. I see I'm just at the end, so things are really starting to heat up at the moment, and I'm very eager to find out what happens. So I'll maybe give a very brief rating for that next week once I finish this, which should hopefully be at some point today. That's everything I have read this week. Please let me know what you guys have read, as always, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye!